The polls are tightening in the race for Texas governor, and there continues to be fallout following that scathing report in Uvalde in reference to the mass shooting that happened at Robb Elementary School. This is the Politics of Texas. I'm Stephen Dial. Here is your Fast Four. After coming off of his speech at the Texas Democrat Convention in Dallas, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke is getting some big donations. O'Rourke raised more than $27 million from February to June, getting more donations than Republican Governor Greg Abbott during that same time period. While O'Rourke has outraised Abbott, the governor has more cash on hand with more than $45 million. This week, the U.S. House approved legislation to protect same-sex and interracial marriages. This came from concerns from Democrats that the conservative U.S. Supreme Court would soon take action on other issues following the overturning of Roe v. Wade. 47 Republicans joined Democrats in approving the legislation, including San Antonio Republican Tony Gonzalez. On the Senate side, Texas Senator Ted Cruz recently said the Supreme Court's decision protecting marriage equality was, quote, clearly wrong. The Uvalde community is still angry following the release of video and more details about what went wrong during the deadly mass shooting at Robb Elementary School. There continues to be finger pointing, and that's because after hearing nearly 400 law enforcement officers responded to the school, there was no clear direction as to who was in charge. The school board was supposed to vote days ago on delaying the start of school to increase security, but it has yet to vote on that. The city of Denton will let voters decide whether they want to decriminalize possession of marijuana in the city. If the measure passes in November, police officers won't ticket people for having small amounts of marijuana in certain cases. This would also mean police won't be able to search someone just because they smell marijuana. COVID cases are once again on the rise, and this week, President Joe Biden also tested positive for the coronavirus. The White House, though, is saying this time is different because we have more protection. Joining us for our Sunday conversation, U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy.
Kind of a here we go again situation, right? I mean, COVID cases are spreading again. What's the latest from your standpoint as to how things are going in the country?
Well, Stephen, we are seeing an increase in cases, and this is being driven in part by a new subvariant of Omicron, something called BA.5. And BA.5, it tends to be even more transmissible than some of the variants that we've seen in the past, more easily spread, if you will. It also seems to evade some of our immune defenses. But here's the key. What we are continuing to see, though, is as these new variants come, people who have gotten vaccinated and who are up to date with their boosters, they still have significant protection against the worst outcomes of COVID, specifically ending up in the hospital or losing your life.
You mentioned the last 2 years. There's huge COVID fatigue. And I mean, Texas, where we are, is even more different than other parts of the country. Is your message vaccines? Because I know a lot of people who are going to be hesitant to wanting to wear a mask again, or, now that they're finally not mandatory on planes. Are you saying that the real protection, just make sure that you're vaccinated and have your boosters, or are you also encouraging all Americans, all Texans to wear their masks constantly as well?
Well, so the good news is over the last 2 years, we've gotten smarter about when to apply these precautions. Look, all of us want to get back to a normal way of living. And the good news is that over the last 6 to 12 months in particular, we've been getting closer and closer to that. But when it comes to masks, we've also learned that when you are in a higher risk circumstance, when your community level of COVID is high, that's when it's very important for you to wear masks in public indoor settings, because there's a lot more virus around and because it's taking a toll on your community, especially on your hospital systems.
As the virus continues to mutate, do you think we're going to get back to record levels, or are we going to be able to just live with being able to deal with the rising cases?
Well, one thing that's important to think about as we look at the end goal here is the end goal is realistically not to eradicate this virus entirely, such that there are never any cases again. What we do want to do is, in fact, learn how to manage this virus so that it doesn't cost us in terms of lives, in terms of hospitalizations. And the good news is we're getting closer and closer to be able to do that. And in fact, we've made so much progress that even though now you're seeing a significant increase in the number of cases, look at what's actually happening with the number of deaths. It is still at 300 a day across the country, which is much higher than I certainly want it to be. But when we had similarly high numbers of cases in the country, we had many, many more deaths. The fact that we have so many fewer is a result of the fact that people have better immune protection from vaccinations, from some cases prior infection, and that we have better treatments as well. So the bottom line is we want to knock down this virus from being something that cost us more than 1 million lives to a virus that we can manage without having to lose any lives. And we'll keep working hard to develop better vaccines and treatments until we get there. But I want people to know that we've made a lot of progress. We just want everyone to use those tools that we have available to us.
Dr. Murthy, thank you so much.